I lived in Dubai for 2 years and I originally moved there to avoid paying tax. I've just moved home back to the UK. So before I moved to Dubai, I was paying about £1 million a year in corporation tax alone. So I went to Dubai and there were some pros to Dubai and there were some cons to Dubai. For me personally, there are more cons than pros, which is why I've returned. And in this video, I'm going to give you my honest review and honest opinion on Dubai and what you can expect if you were deciding to move there. For those of you who don't know who I am, which might be most of you, my name's Charlie. I'm an online entrepreneur. I've been in business for nearly a decade now. And I gave Dubai a good run for 2 years, but decided it wasn't for me in the long term. And here's why. So the pros, there's quite a few. First of all, Dubai is abundant. And it does give you a perspective on wealth that you probably can't get in many other places in the world. G-Wagons, Rolls-Royce Cullinans are just as common as Toyota Priuses. There's billions of dollars of real estate pretty much everywhere you look. And it is very much a big pond. And you will be a small fish in a big pond. If you're an entrepreneur or if you're moderately successful in your community in Europe or in the US, then the chances are is you might be the most successful person in your social group or in your environment. Dubai, you will not be. You will be a small fish. And I kind of liked that element of it because it really opens up your eyes as to what's possible. You've got a V10, V12 engine flying past you every 5 minutes. And it's definitely opens up your eyes to the world of money. Now, I lived on the Palm Jumeirah, and I loved it because I could go for a walk and probably see $600 or $700 million worth of real estate in just, a short 15-minute walk up the street. It does give you a cool perspective on money. Second to that is the convenience. Dubai is incredibly convenient. Everything is very fast. There's apps for everything. You can get petrol delivered. You can get anything you want delivered. For example, I wanted to get some blood tests done for my health. I had a nurse come out 3 hours after I requested, and this was at like 5 p.m. If you need your air conditioning fixed, someone will come out at 4 a.m. If you need your plumbing fixed, someone will be there at 3 a.m. Like, it is really convenient. The next pro is the cleanliness. Dubai is incredibly clean, almost too clean. It can feel a bit sterile sometimes, but that's an insane thing to complain about. Yeah, no dog shit on the streets, no like crap laying around, no like homeless people tents or anything. Like the city itself is really clean and sterile. The fourth thing is the spectacle. It is a massive pro. I mean, Dubai, there's no place like it. It is phenomenal. It is like the buildings, the cities, the spectacle of the skyscrapers and the things that they've built are insane. And even after living there for a year or two, you'd think the novelty wears off, but I could see the Burj Al Arab and the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, from the beach on my house. And it never failed to sort of amaze me. And I was like, damn, this is a pretty cool feat of engineering. And you still get a lot of that. And especially when you have visitors in Dubai, they're going to love it. And there's lots of tourism stuff to do. The next thing is the winter weather. So obviously I am from the UK and, the winter can kind of suck in terms of the cold and the darkness and the rain. Over there, it is gorgeous. You have got these nice, mid-20s, nice and sunny, nice and cool in the evenings. It's beautiful in the winter. It really is. But that comes with a price. And we'll talk about the summer in a second. Obviously, the next thing is the taxation. Another pro. There's no tax, right? No income tax. There is a 9% corporation tax and there is VAT, so value added tax on transactions that you make with other companies in the UAE. But the tax system's moving very quickly and there is actually a con to the tax system that I really do not like that we'll talk about in a second, but obviously there's no tax. The other thing, this might not apply to you so much, but something that really helped me was the growth of my personal brand. So I have this YouTube channel. And, I've been running YouTube from my house in Dubai for nearly 18 months, 2 years. And, having like a nice house on the Palm, like it definitely helped me capture more attention than I otherwise would have, by having a fancy house and a fancy view and stuff. So there was that. The next thing is Dubai is certainly conducive to good habits because heavy drinking is illegal or at least heavily discouraged. Pornography is illegal. Drugs are illegal, all the bad stuff, gambling's illegal. You can't really do any of it. And that's a good thing because if you struggle with any bad habits, then, it's illegal to do them and you will have to face the book of law if you do partake in stupid things. And, I think that's a really good thing. I personally don't really struggle with any of those addictions. So I wasn't too affected by it, but I know some people that moved to Dubai who were like smoking weed before. And then obviously over there, it's like you could die. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but there's some serious consequences and repercussions to degeneracy, which is a good thing. The next thing is safety. Dubai is safe. The rumors are true. I've not seen a single example of violence or robbery or crime at all in my time in Dubai. It is so safe. You feel incredibly secure. Even in like rowdy pubs or rowdy bars, there's no fighting, there's no swearing, there's no maybe a little bit of debauchery, but there's no like heavy crime. You can wear whatever you want, watches, jewelry. If you have a girlfriend, you don't have to worry about her getting an Uber. She's going to be safe. You're going to be safe. It is very safe. And there is a lot to be said for that. And the reason Dubai is so safe is because the police have so much power and authority, which does come with a con that I will explore in a second. The next thing is networking. So if you are an entrepreneur and you want to talk to other entrepreneurs and network with other entrepreneurs, then you will have plenty of opportunity to do that in Dubai. Kind of goes without saying, right? It's a bit of a hub. And then the last thing is an honorable mention, which is Carna Store. So Carni, like carnivore, but store, Carna Store. Carna Store is basically a company that I used to buy my meat from, and I would eat steaks like every single day, and by far the best steaks I've ever had. The ribeyes, the sirloins, the Black Angus, best meat ever. I like steaks. I eat a lot of meat. I do it every single day, and so for me, that was a huge pro. You might not care too much about it, but that's that. But there are more cons, and I want to talk to you about these cons because people don't consider these. When you look at Dubai on the internet, you see this nice, big, shiny utopia, but it isn't all it's made out to be. So let me explain these. So the first thing, and the real primary reason that I decided to leave was for me at least, it might be different for other people. This is my experience, right? It's impossible to emotionally unpack. And living in Dubai feels like you're on holiday or on an Airbnb. Because in order for you to have a healthy life, you need to have people that you love. And you need to have a social life. And you need to have a love life. And you need to have family life and stuff like that. The issue with Dubai is everyone plans to leave. It's a revolving door of a city, which means that people come and people leave. And 90%, 95% of the people that I knew in Dubai did not plan on staying there for the long term. So if you moved into a borough of London, or let's say you moved into somewhere in Europe, you're surrounded by people who have their jobs there, their families there, their kids there, their dogs there, their schools there, and they intend to stay, which means you can build a life with these people. But in Dubai, everyone I knew didn't want to be there for more than 5 years or intended to leave. Or they were only there for half of the year because of the summer. Huge con, because you can't build like a consistent social life, a consistent love life. It's really tricky, and I found that difficult. It might be different for other people, but that's that. The next thing is the summer. The summer is atrocious. It's awful. The weather is really bad. It's not necessarily the heat, although it gets to 45 degrees. It's Celsius. It's way too hot. It's the humidity. It gets incredibly humid. When you you're cooking and you open the oven door and you get hit by steam, it's not quite that bad, but in the summer, it is awful. Like your sunglasses steam up, you can't really breathe properly. You're going to be just sitting there sweating. You can't go outside. You have to go from air-conditioned house to air-conditioned taxi to air-conditioned office to air-conditioned restaurant to you can't really go anywhere. You kind of get this weird cabin fever because it is just so unbearable outside. Even in October and September, even in April, it's better, but you're still going to be sweating at 8 p.m. and it's not very pleasant. So there is that. Now, the other thing, and this is a huge one that no one talks about, is the air quality. So the AQI stands for the Air Quality Index. And you can look this up. No one really talks about this, but when you think about bad pollution and bad air quality, you think about China, you think about Beijing, you think about Mumbai, you think about cities in Bangladesh, you think, you see these awful sort of polluted cities. It's interesting to know that Dubai is up there, I think, with the top, don't quote me on this, but I think it's in the top 10 of worst cities for air pollution and air quality. And if you check this out, it's true. You can Google it and you'll see it, and then you can compare it to these European cities and stuff. It's really bad. And in the summer, you can smell it, you can taste it. Your throat congests. You get you'll wake up in the morning with stuff in your nose that you have to blow out of your nose, like you've got a cold or something. The air quality is awful and it's really bad. And in the summer and even in the winter, you can see it. So, I used to live on the Palm and I would be able to see, buildings, a couple of, maybe like a mile or two away from me. And in the summer, where the pollution is so bad that you can't see the buildings that are like a mile away. It's just this thick layer of polluted fog surrounds the city, and it's really unpleasant. And, I can imagine if you lived in that for any long period of time, you'd get like some serious respiratory issues, but maybe not, I don't know. The next thing is construction. Now, I never really had much of a problem with this because I was living in a house on quite a quiet street on the Palm, but a lot of people who lived in apartments, they all complained about construction noise. It's relentless, apparently. So like if you're living in like an apartment block or a high rise, there's always someone changing windows or drilling, and apparently that's a huge problem. So construction noise in apartment buildings can be quite frustrating. The next thing is dating. I found Dubai to be an incredibly difficult dating market. I hate to use the words market and dating in the same phrase, but Dubai does attract a certain type of woman. You're less likely to find a wholesome sort of maternal figure in Dubai because, think about the kind of girl that's attracted to Dubai. It's the same thing with like Miami, all these other sort of party cities, or, I'm not going to get too far into it because you can make your own mind up on what you want. But for me, the girls in Dubai were not it, at least from a long-term marriage relationship perspective. So there is that to consider. And not to mention as well, I think 70% of the population in Dubai is male. So it is remarkably competitive. But you've got to remember that most of those people are workers who you don't even see, so they're usually the laborers, right? So, they're not really part of the dating market per se. But I did the dating app thing, I did the whole approaching thing, and like nothing really came from it, at least not long term, because of the Dubai, we call it the Dubaiification of a woman. But that's a story for another day. The next thing is you can't drink the water. This is a small con, it's not that deep, so you have to drink bottled water. But one massive gripe that I have with Dubai, and I don't know why the UAE does this, all of the drinking water, all the bottled drinking water, with the one exception of San Pellegrino, that's imported into Dubai, has had the sodium removed from it. So all the electrolytes in the water are removed from all the drinking water. So what happens is you end up just dehydrating yourself because these electrolytes hydrate you. And because you're sweating so much because of the weather, you drink more water, but you're basically flushing out the electrolytes you've got. So everyone in Dubai has an electrolyte deficiency. So what I had to start doing was I bought a funnel and some Himalayan pink salt and some electrolytes. And every morning I would get salt in my water just so I could have electrolytes. I don't know why they do the low sodium thing. I don't know anything about health and water and electrolytes, but I found that when I had electrolytes in water, I felt significantly better. So there is that, but you can't drink the water. And, showering in the water, I never found an issue with the water quality from a showering perspective or whatever. So the other con to Dubai is the highway experience. You cannot walk anywhere. You can't really cycle anywhere. It's very much a car dependent city, which is fine if that's your thing, but I wouldn't mind it if the driving experience was actually okay. The driving experience is not great if you want to have a car there. It is very much every man for himself. There's lots of traffic all the time. Like if you're in Central Marina, if you're trying to get off the Palm, or if you're anywhere near downtown Central, during rush hour, you're going to be doubling, tripling your journey time. So there is that, and the driving is it's not great there. But you can't walk anywhere. One thing that I like about Europe, and the main thing I like about Europe, is I can walk out of my door now. I can walk to the supermarket if I want to go to the supermarket. I can walk to a park. I can walk to the pub. I can walk down to see my friends. I can cycle across the city and be at an event or something. In Dubai, you don't have that. Everything requires an Uber or a taxi or a van, and that's not my cup of tea. The next con, and I said I'd talk about this with the tax thing. The tax rules in the UAE are very, very, very unclear. And for example, there's a 9% corporation tax. And I've spoken to many accountants and lawyers that are, experts in UAE law and taxation, but no one really knows who has to pay it and what it's for and what it's about. And I found that quite difficult. I don't like tax jurisdictions that don't have clear-cut rules, because, then, before you know it, you're liable for a fine or to make a mistake. And so many professionals disagree on what the UAE is going to do next, or who has to pay the taxes, and who, like the VAT thing, and whether salary is tax deductible. So I didn't really like that. The next con is associations. So whether you like it or not, there are bad actors in Dubai, and there are people in Dubai who, you know, the broad world don't approve of and don't like. And, you know, Dubai does have this kind of association of being a place where dirty money goes to get laundered, and criminals and drug dealers live, and, you know, these crypto dudes that basically are drug dealers, but, you know, hide it through saying they got crypto gains. You become associated with those people. And for me, this was quite important, because lots of people, when they think about Dubai, they think about the sort of low ticket course scam. And as someone who, you know, sells information online at a higher ticket and not to the broad market, that was a huge issue for me. And I didn't like to be associated with the sort of Dubai piece and people. So this is another reason why I moved. Next thing is conformity. This is a really interesting one that's going to piss some people off probably. You remember those memes, like the starter pack meme? Dubai has a aesthetic to it, and the entrepreneur new money aesthetic that honestly I think Iman Gaji created. You might not know who he is, but whatever. Everyone looks the same. Everyone wears the same stuff. It's the no logo, old money, linen shirt, linen suit. Like everyone looks the same, and it's weird. Everyone conforms to this identity, which is, I really didn't like it. Is, you know, prime example. I saw a large group of entrepreneurs at an event, and it wasn't an event that I was attending, but I think there was like 40, 50 of them, and they all looked identical. Now, this is not a con for living in Dubai at all. It's just something that I've picked up on, is there is a tendency for everyone to merge into this sort of one human. You know, in Europe, in these cities in Europe, there are individuals. You know, people are very bold with their fashion or what they wear or how they look or how they speak. But in Dubai, everyone sort of morphs into this one single, like, high value man being, and it's strange. It's not a con. It's just more of an observation, really. But everyone looks the same colors, same brands, same shoes, same watches. You go to a dinner with entrepreneurs, you're going to see everyone wearing a day date. You're going to see everyone with like Laura Piana loafers on. You're going to see linen shirts. You're going to see linen trousers. You're going to see, you know, like beige greens and these browns, and you're going to see Van Cleefs. It's all the same. I can paint a picture of what the average person looks like in Dubai. So, you know, there is that. It's not that big of a deal, to be honest. But that is not to say that Dubai is the biggest flexing market in the world. And what I don't like about Dubai is the constant urge, and this was a me problem, right? It might not be a you problem. The constant urge to compete for status. I've never really been one to flex. I've never bought supercars before. He says, living on the palm, dickhead. But I've never been one to wear expensive watches or, you know, expensive brands or whatever. But in Dubai, you feel this pull and this urge towards the flexing thing, which was completely unlike me. I nearly bought a Rolex. You know, I was looking at buying Lamborghinis, and then I was like, what the heck? What am I doing? But when you live in an environment where that's just so normal, and in order for you to obtain status, it's a competition. I don't like the competition that it invokes. But that might just be me being a brokey or something, but I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. Next thing, big one, is isolation and lack of normal social life. Because Dubai is a car city, you can't just meet your mates down the pub. You can't just, you know, walk down to see your mate. Like, Dubai is incredibly isolating, and social circles are very hard to break into, and they're very cliquey. Now, I had a good group of friends in Dubai. I had a couple of different groups of friends that I would play football with or go for dinners with. And I met some amazing people in Dubai that honestly I'll be friends with for the rest of my life. But it took me a good year to crack the social thing. Now, that's probably of my own fault for not going out as much, but Dubai definitely invites isolation, and it definitely encourages you to, you know, isolate yourself, because although you're in this metropolis utopia, you can't just, like, how the hell do you meet people? Yeah, you can go to these networking dinners and stuff, but I hated those, because the networking business dinners, they're not real friends. It's just transaction. And then what happens is all your social circle and social life just becomes about, what do you do, bro? Like, you know, when you go to one of these entrepreneur, you might not know this yet, but if you go to one of these entrepreneur dinners, or if you are thinking about moving there as an entrepreneur, people are just all they do is talk about work. And those dinners, I find them very grinding, so I stopped attending them. Same thing with like yacht parties and stuff. Like I've had some good parties and some good dinners with my friends. I've had some bad dinners and bad parties with people who aren't my friends. So, you can do that what you will, but it's very isolating. And if you're the kind of person that likes a sense of community and a sense of like a solid, consistent social life, then Dubai is not for you. There is no sense of community in Dubai. None. Like, at least not that I've found. It might be a me problem again, but it's very rare to feel a heartbeat or a soul to the place, depending on what you want and what that means for you. Next thing is time zones, big con. Now that I'm back here in the UK, I'm back to my usual schedule of waking up at like 5:30 or 6 a.m. and then I finish work at like 6 or 7 p.m. The issue with Dubai is I'm an entrepreneur, right? So most of my team is based in South Africa, the UK, Europe, and the USA. So we're all remote. Dubai is like, at the best of times, 3-4 hours ahead of the UK, let alone the US and South Africa. So I found myself working till like 11 p.m. at night and then naturally waking up at like 11 a.m. or like 10 a.m. or finishing at midnight. And, the time zone thing's really tricky because you start work, if you want to start work at 9, or if I want to start work at 9, my team doesn't start work until, 4 hours after, and the meetings get really late, and I didn't like that at all. Next thing is obviously a big one, lack of nature. I lived on the beach, I lived on the palm, I lived by the sea, and it was quiet and peaceful, and there were birds and crickets and stuff, but it still lacked nature. No green space. The city does try, to be fair, and they are working on this, but there's no natural green space. And there are some, the UAE and the Gulf, it's a beautiful place. Some of the canyons and the deserts, I've been to the desert, it is gorgeous, but it's not integrated, and it's not just that. You can't just walk through a field and be in some meadows or something. I don't know what you want, but you get my point. The next thing is the police have significant authority, and this is a good thing, right? It is a good thing because the police are actually, they have authority, and the government is obviously autocratic, which means it's not a democracy. I don't know how they run it, but the issue, and this is the final con, is everyone lives in constant fear. Now, I'm not talking about fully fledged terror. I'm not talking about like you're not in this constant state of terror, but in everyone, maybe not everyone, but this is a projection, but at least for me, in the back of my mind, I constantly had this slight fear that I was going to do something wrong, or piss off the wrong person, or bump into the wrong shoulder, or say the wrong thing, or do the wrong thing, and end up, arrested and put away in jail. Now, I never did anything illegal, and I never did anything wrong, but a lot of people that I spoke to over there shared this same sort of fear. And you'd hear all these stories that probably aren't true about people pissing off the wrong local and getting imprisoned. And I don't think that has merit. I don't think that's true. But because the police and the government, it's autocratic in a good way, because the leader is incredibly competent and incredibly talented at leading. But what that means is that they have full control, and there's less accountability, which is a good thing because it's why the city is so safe. But you need to just be aware that there are real consequences to your actions, which is a good. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. This is kind of like a con and a pro at the same time. But a lot of people, claim to have. I didn't have any issues with the police. I found the police to be very friendly. I found them to be very nice and caring and kind, and I never had an issue with them. But you just know how much power they have, and it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because there is this fear in the back of your mind that what if you get caught swearing in public or something, or what if that date you went on, because it's not under their, the laws of the country, you're not supposed to have sex out of marriage, and you're not supposed to drink, and there's the laws. It's this grey area of legality, and you always end up with this sort of fear in the back of your mind of what's going to happen. But that's basically my list of pros and cons. If you want to move, you should, and I definitely encourage you to try it if you think that it's for you after these things. But the main reasons that I moved, the main primary reason that I moved back, was to be closer to my team and for my business, but also just the community thing, man. Like the community and the air quality were really the two big things for me. It's very hard to have a normal, healthy, integrated social life in Dubai, in my experience. Probably different for other people. But also the summers and the air quality, and having to uproot your life for basically 5 months of the year, and up to just pull up all your ties, and then you don't see any it's just not for me. but it might be for you. And I'd encourage you to check it out if you could, because there are lots of pros and it is a sight to behold. It's an awesome city. So yeah, that's everything. Have a good day.